Yes, we hear you well.
Assalamu alaikum all. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Salatu wassalamu ala rasulina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome all. This is our 5th week of the Ism al-Fard. So inshallah, this will be the final session. So we want to wrap up what we said until now and try to, inshallah, conclude this ism of 6 ism azam al-fard, one of the 6 ism azam, inshallah. We again have Colin Turner from Durham, England, and Jasmine Yanai from Connecticut, United States. Inshallah, we'll be welcoming also our volunteer speakers once in a while. We'll appreciate their opinions. Let's start, inshallah, from the 5th indication where we left last week. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. 5th indication. We have demonstrated with decisive proofs in many places that the most fundamental characteristic of rulership is independence and separatedness. In original version, it says istiklal and infirad. For infirad, we might be maybe using the word singleness, but I will go with the translation now. The most fundamental characteristic of rulership is independence and singleness, which is istiklal and infirad. Even the weak shadow of rulership in impotent man vehemently rejects the interference of others and does not permit others to meddle in its duty, and in this way preserves its independence. Many kings have mercilessly put to death their innocent children and loved brothers on account of this rejection of interference. That is to say, independence, separatedness, or singleness, istiklal and ifrad, and the rejection of the interference of others are the most basic characteristics of true rulership, and are its inseparable necessities and perpetual essentials. It's because of this characteristic that divine rulership, which is at the degree of absolute dominicality, most vehemently rejects the association of any partners and the participation and interference of others. The Quran of Miraculous Exposition 2 insistently, repeatedly, and sternly indicates divine unity and rejects with severe threats the association of partners with Allah. Thus, the divine rulership in dominicality, rububiyyah, necessitates divine unity, tawhid, and indicates a most powerful motive and necessitating cause for it. So too, the infinitely perfect order and harmony on the face of the universe, apparent from the totality of the universe, and the stars and the plants, animals and minerals to particulars, individuals and minute particles, form an indubitably veracious witness to and clear proof of that singleness and unity. For if others had interfered, this most sensitive balance, order, and regularity of the universe would have been spoiled, and signs of disorder would have been apparent. In accordance with the meaning of the verse, لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا, if there were in the heavens and the earth other gods besides Allah, there would have been confusion, chaos, conflict in both. This wondrous, perfect order of the universe would have been thrown into confusion and been spoiled, whereas according to the verse, فَارْجِعَ الْبَصَرَ هَلْ تَرَى مِنْ فُطُورٍ. So turn your vision again. Do you see any flaw? From minute particles to the plants, from the ground to the divine throne, there is no sign of fault, defect, and confusion. Thus, the order of the universe and of creatures and the balance of beings demonstrate most brilliantly the greatest manifestation of the name of single and testify to divine unity. Inshallah, I want to stop here and try to underline a couple of things about this first introduction. Okay. First of all, I want to say that this shocking example by Ustad always amazed me. So this, he talked about some rulers killing their own brothers and sons. When this comes to my mind, the discussion always goes around if it is permissible or haram, or there was a legitimate reason or not. But very the interesting, Ustad just said that this is an evidence of singleness, that the sovereignty does not accept any partnership. So otherwise it will be a total chaos. So, and of course the presentation was very interesting, saying that even the weak shadow of rulership in impotent man vehemently rejects the interference of others and does not permit others to meddle in its duty. So human beings who are weak and impotent and in need of a lot of help and assistance when it comes to sovereignty and interference of others in the independence of rulership, they cannot accept any partnership. So that is a very interesting feeling, that we don't need to maybe go to a ruler, a king, but when we look at our own feelings, our own actions, daily actions, it's pretty clear, I believe. We encourage each other for partnerships and working together, assisting each other, but still when it comes to get the credit for something we did, or let's say we're working on something that we are experienced at, we just want to claim the ownership, and we don't want to any interference. We just claim the independence on that single work. So this is a very strong feeling, which is interesting in claimed by the weak and needy human being. So in a larger realm, it's much more apparent, and as Ustad give the example of a sultan here, and moreover, when we look at the whole universe, which is the divine ship the divine rulership in dominicality and rububiyyah, which is the absolute sovereignty. So that's the absolute sense of the absolute limits of the sovereignty. I want to turn to my speakers and just give some feedback on this. Maybe they can help me to understand this. Korun Hocam, are you online? Yes.
Yeah, I'm online. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum wa
rahmatullah. Yeah, going back to what you said about the notion of kings or emperors getting rid of their rivals, getting rid of their brothers or anyone who stands as a threat. The notion that this could somehow be a legitimate course of action is ridiculous, And I think clearly Ustad is not trying to give sanction in retrospect to the tyranny of either the Ottoman sultans or the Safavid sultans or any sultans. What he's saying is that this tendency to desire monopoly for oneself is so strong and so prevalent in human nature, in human fitra, that even, people are even are led by their own desire for singularity, for their singularity to be affirmed, that they are ready to kill. In exactly the same way that a bloodthirsty tyrant will never say, I'm a bloodthirsty tyrant. A bloodthirsty tyrant will say, I am just, because justice is a value that everyone aspires to and that everyone believes in. So even tyrants will, claim to be just. But of course, you can't say that bloodthirsty tyrants are just. That's no kind of legitimization or justification. And the same for kings and emperors. If they got rid of their rivals by killing them, either their sons, if their sons were particularly strong, and if they feared that their son would try to usurp them, or their brothers, usually brothers, because brothers, of course, stand in line if you have no children as your heir in the dynastic system, then they would get rid of them, because singularity and monopoly is very, very important. And we even if we say that we don't value it, our actions say otherwise. If I spend 18 months writing a book, and I put all my energy and effort into it and all my talent into it, at the end of the 18 months when it's published, I want my name on it, and I don't want anyone else's name as my partner, because no one has partnered me. So if someone suggests I want to put my name on as well, that would be ridiculous. Why would I allow that? So that's a very crude everyday example, but it's just something that is in our psycho-spiritual makeup, that we love uniqueness, we love unicity, and we also love singularity. This is something that we can't help. This is how we're created. And so this is what Ustad is saying, is using rulers as a very good example, because who would kill their own brother? Unless they are motivated by a desire for power and rulership so strong that it overcomes all other considerations. So this is what Ustad is saying. And clearly he's not talking about the legitimacy of that action, because clearly he understands that none of us would say that such an action is legitimate or justified.
Correct. He defined it like mercilessly put their innocent children and loved brothers.
Yeah.
So there's something else there, right? That overcomes all these things. And
absolutely, and we have lots of examples of it. We have examples in Ottoman history, in Safavid history, in the history of the absolute kings of in the 16th and 17th century in Europe. It was everywhere. Everyone who is a ruler wants to be the only ruler. And, you know, that's it. It's quite straightforward, really.
And the consequences of having partners in the rulership is kind of chaos, conflict, right? A bigger bloodshed, or that also, which gives a way to a bigger problem in a way. So
yeah, absolutely. And Ustad gives lots of analogies and examples and parables to show that. One that I was recently reading was, and we may have done it in one of these sessions, is it easier for one factory to supply all of the ammunition and all of the uniforms and all of the demobilization papers for 100,000 men in an army? Or is it easier for 100,000 soldiers each to have their own, to build their own factory and to make their own uniform and to make their own ammunition and their own, their own uniforms? Clearly, that would be chaos. It would be chaos. And, you know, 6 people in a kitchen trying to cook the same meal, it's chaos. You know, so many examples of it. And we see in the creation, everything is unique, but that unique thing is created by one creator, and it's the same creator who creates all unique things. We don't see interference in creation. We see cooperation, but cooperation is different from interference, because cooperation means 2 or more people acting according to the same blueprint or the same plan. You know, there is only one blueprint or one plan when cooperation obtains. You know, be it in a factory where things are mass produced, or, you know, in a cottage industry, or in the home, even when people are just collaborating. There is always one plan, and there is always one leader of a project. So it always goes back to one, you know, singularity, unicity, and unity.
Cezmi, do you want to reflect a little bit on the Quranic explanation of this topic, which is, you know, the reflection on the universe? Ustad mentioned here the verse, if there were in the heavens and earth other gods besides Allah, there would have been confusion in both. So the whole universe is kind of so overwhelming. Sometimes we have difficulty to make sense how everything works, you know, how everything is just works in harmony, hand in hand. So Quran maybe makes little more clearer for us that do you think these are all working together by itself, or, you know, the sometimes telling things by the opposites, it might be very helpful. So started with little examples from our own realm, but on the other side, if there was different forces that affect in this universe in reality, you know, that's our observations. We are talking about laws, forces, other effects and agencies in the universe. So if there was just multiple effects or agencies, or, you know, the real powers there will be absolute conflict, confusion in the heavens and earth. So do you want to say a few words on this?
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, I can define some of the meanings in addition to Colin Abi's expression very beautifully. You, Arabi and Colin Abi, expressed. So in this fifth point, fifth integration, we are studying the independence. So the singleness, the rejection of the interference of others. So this is the most characteristics of the rulership. So we are the example of very importantly the example from our beings, from human beings. It is very important because we can understand al-fard by looking from our perspective, from our mirrorship, the humanity. So although we are very, very weak, so we are rejecting any interference in our rulership, as in the example given, the sultans, they rejected their sons and brothers. So this is the quality of our human being. So being humanity, as Allah has put this in our essence. So in the whole universe, the divine singleness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is rejecting absolutely any partnership, and showing this as the reason of chaos. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a universe. Every human being has given a special universe from this external universe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants to protect our universe from associating partners. So a person who is associating partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give harm to Allah's sultanate. So there is no external partners of Allah. That is in the mind of humanity. So those who are associating partners, just imagining it in their own minds. There is no external reality of this. In many parts of the Risale-i Nur Tafsir, Said Nursi, he is defining this, especially in the 32nd word. He is saying that there is no indication, there is no sign of partners of Allah in the creation. So any of the creatures in the universe, so the possibility of Allah having any partners. So that claim is just purely arbitrary, so meaningless. It is an abstract claim. It's pure ignorance and unqualified stupidity. It is Said Nursi, he's defining. So this idea is just in their minds, in the external realms, as you mentioned, by Karabi, those ayat. So لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ لَفَسَدَتَا is showing very clearly, if there were any other gods, there would be chaos, there would be disorder, disharmony in this universe. But we observe perfectly harmony. We observe perfectly the balance, the order. It is prevailing in this universe. So there is no reality of associating partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to preserve His dignity, those who are associating partners, although there is no any base of this claim, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is severely threatening those who are associating partners in many ayat. In the Surah Al-Nisa, 2 times Allah is mentioning the same ayah. Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalik. This ayah is repeated 2 times in the Quran. So this importance of rejecting the partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a very important characteristic of Tawheed. So the singleness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many ayat like this in the Surah Al-Nisa in the Quran. So most important essence of Quran is Tawheed. So it is in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is continuously emphasizing the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, and this is the logical expression of it. If there were other gods, there wouldn't be any order. But we are observing a perfect order in this universe. So it shows that there is no sign of shirk, associating partners. So we are observing only the order in the universe, perfect balance, perfect equilibrium. Alhamdulillah.
I'm not sure how much it can help us. Of course, we are limited with the things that we can observe, that we can really experience. So Allah is not similar or equal or like anything else. But I guess here, as Ustad says, in different parts of the Risale-i Nur, human being is a very shining mirror to the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First of all, with its opposites, we can feel our absolute weakness, we can feel our absolute neediness, so we can have a better understanding of the absolute power and absolute richness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and characteristics, attributes. So maybe here, again, after giving the example, Ustad talk about absolute dominicality, absolute rububiyyah, which is absolutely opposite of what we have. So we are weak human beings, limited creatures, in need of absolute need. But on the other side, when we think about the creator of the whole universe with his absolute rububiyyah, how come it can be comparable, or how come we can associate partners with that sovereignty? I guess Alabi has something to say. I want to let him contribute.
Yes. Yes. Assalamu
Yes,
alaikum.
Wa alaikum rahmatullah.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to share a few sentences from the fourth proof of the 22nd word in the first station. So related to matter we are discussing now. If place of a single wonder-working being, which your mind deems unlikely, you have to accept millions like him who are both opposed to one another and similar and one within the other, so they do not cause confusion everywhere and the order be spoiled. Whereas if two fingers meddle in a country, they cause confusion. For if there are two hetmen in a village, or two governors in a town, or two kings in a country, the result is chaos. So what about an infinite absolute ruler? This sentence I wanted to share. If anybody can say a few sentences, it makes me very happy. What about an infinite absolute ruler? What does it mean in this context? Yes.
Kornajam, you want to step in?
Sorry, I wasn't aware of the question exactly. Can you repeat it or rephrase it?
If Alab is available, as far as I understand, he read a part that is talking about this absolute rububiyyah, absolute dominicality. So we're always comparing from our limited world. There cannot be two headsmen in a village. There cannot be two boss in a company, or if we want to compare it with an absolute dominicality, first of all, how can we make sense?
I see.
Infinite and absolute dominicality, and
yeah, for a creator who is by default absolute, in other words, admitting of no lack, admitting of no flaw, admitting of no deficit, admitting of no deficiency whatsoever, and whose names ultimately are not there in degrees but in an absolute sense, then for there to be two creators like that, or for there to be creators other than that would mean that he is no longer absolute or infinite. Because as soon as we introduce a rival or a partner or a peer, then the notion of absoluteness is compromised. And therefore, we're not talking about God anymore. When we are talking about two gods, then those gods are not absolute. Those gods are just, earthly deities in our imagination. For a creator to be absolute, there can be absolutely no interference, no threat of interference even. So, I mean, a lot of this language that Ustad uses, about headsman and king and all of these things would never allow. It's not that God would never allow it. It's just that such a thing is not possible because God is God. And because God is God, there is no possibility of a rival. So if we say God does not allow rivals, this is human language. This is the way we speak. It's the way we speak about a headsman. It's the way we speak about a king or an emperor. But the fact that God is absolute in all of his names means that there cannot be any interference. There is no interference. There is no partnership. There is no associationism by default. And if you imagine that you can imagine that, if you think that you can imagine such a thing, well, actually you can't, because as soon as you say two gods, then you're talking about limited beings who are not God. Neither of them would be God in the sense of being Allah, with absolute names. So there is no possibility of any kind of interference or partnership.
Thank you so much. So Alabi, you want to say more, or it's just your hand is raised?
Yes, very nice. Thank you. What about an infinite absolute ruler? It has been explained very nice. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So again, as a limited human being, to make sense of that, maybe we can look to the opposite, as the Quran teaches us, right? We don't see any conflict. We don't see any confusion. We see, as far as we can observe, an absolute harmony in both. But if there was any interference of any other agencies, forces, absolutely there will be some conflict or confusion. And most of the time, even if we think there is some, an overwhelming, chaotic confusion there, the more we study the things in the universe, the more we explore, we find out that was a part of the plan, or the system, or the established system, established rule.
I think this is something that Ustad goes on in the next paragraph to show. He doesn't just say, that this is a characteristic of divine rulership. He says we can see this in creation from the order and the harmony. We see order and harmony. I was thinking about the human body. If you think about the different systems in the human body, there is the respiratory system, which allows us to breathe. There is the circulatory system, which takes the blood around our body. Then there is the endocrine system, which regulates the hormones. And then we've got the skeletal muscular system, which allows us to walk upright and not to collapse. So these four systems, if they are working independently, we wouldn't be able to operate. There would be chaos if each of those systems, like the circulatory systems, are closed systems. the blood circulatory system. If these were acting independently and according to their own dictates, there would be chaos in the human body. So all of those systems are working together in a very orderly and harmonious way. Remember, there are 100,000 kilometers of blood vessels in the human body. 100,000 kilometers, you know, to go around the Earth 3 or 4 times. And it's working usually in the human body, unless there is illness, it's working with perfect order and harmony. Now, that can only be down to one ruler. It's impossible that there should be more than one person giving orders. Absolutely impossible.
I guess this ayah makes it very clear, right? Farjil basar hal tara min futur. So turn your vision again. Do you see any flaws? So if even if we observe some flaws, as you said, in the case of sickness, right? We know that this is just 1 out of millions, and just few of the cells, as you mentioned, you know, let's say blood cells in a body misoperates, or, you know, operates against the whole, you know, the order of the system. Now it becomes a sickness. So we know that for years the whole system works perfectly, and if there is apparent flaws here and there, it's just examples or samples that this is how it would be, you know, if there wasn't one single unity between all these things.
Well, also sickness has its own system. It's just a different kind of order, you know. If someone has cancer, that cancer is very orderly in its creation and in the way it operates. So that has its own system that maybe we can't understand the order. This is why we can't cure these things, because we don't understand how they work. But they have their own dynamic and their own order and their own wisdom.
It's just a few cells are, I guess, multiplying faster than they're supposed to be, right? They're operating faster, actually, but even this causes a chaos, or it's something that interruption for the whole body. So how can we think that even in a single body, as you said, you know, billions of cells are just working in harmony, leave aside the whole universe? Yes, thank you so much.
This perfect balance, it reminded me of the ayat, and in many of the ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us the whole universe, from the particles to the stars, everything is glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sabbaha lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard, or yusabbihu lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard. So in their perfect order, in their balance, so they are glorifying Allah, that nothing can interfere in his sultanate, nothing can interfere in his sustaining, in his lordship. So in their acts, so they are glorifying Allah with the tongue of disposition by acting perfectly. So they are showing there is no one interfering in his action. So they are showing many functions while glorifying Allah. They are showing the beauty of his arts, the strong of his authority. So many functions are appearing in their actions. Yes.
Just brought to my mind the last week's discussion. So even if it is ibda, you know, creation from the nothingness, or insha, bringing together the already existing things, you know, at every second we are having a different system. At every single step we are having a different attributes, different qualifications, different things that should be kept under control, and you know, so it's kind of that every single consequence, every single step, every single moment should be also following each other as we observe, or should be in Tawheed, in unity. But they don't have to be. They, you know, even if we believe that they're created one by one and follow each other, or we, as we observe them, they're following each other, but in each second, in each moment, in each phase, in each step, they just having different attributes, different systems, different qualifications. So these are all should be attached together, or formed together, or so that they can follow each other in a perfect harmony. So it's not a momentous harmony, but it is in a way from the Ezel to Ebed, from the very beginning of time to eternity. It goes in every step of our lives that we can't even imagine about. It's so broad, so perfect and awesome in a way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you put it very beautifully, and you sum up these points that we're discussing, with great expertise. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
I was going to ask a question actually, because the more I read Ustad's work, the more I realize that he is a pastoral theologian. He's not just someone who, like most scholars today, will just tick a box and say, yes, we believe in unity. Muslims, we believe that God is one, and that's it. That's where it seems to end, and Tawheed seems to become a slogan. And then when you see, the follow through, how the scholars are talking about the universe, you would think that they'd never heard of unity, divine unity, when they're talking about causes, causes creating, and speaking about the universe in a way that betokens complete misunderstanding of what Tawheed is, especially in things such as the creation of human actions. I'm wondering whether there is anyone to the extent and to the depth of Nursi who has talked about Tawheed in a way other than, sloganeering. Because Tawheed shouldn't just be a slogan. And I'm wondering, when we repeat these slogans, how much do we really understand why shirk is dangerous? Because I remember I was once in a mosque and I was using tasbih. I think that's Turkish as well, isn't it? As well as Persian. To count, when you count the tasbihat. And someone told me that, this is shirk. And I'm thinking, well, it doesn't really endanger me. It's just a way of me keeping count of the tasbihat. And why are you telling me that this is shirk? How is this offending God's ahadiyya or wahidiyya? And there are no answers usually. And this is not the fault of Muslims, it's the fault of our ulama. Our ulama are not pastoral theologians. They are speculative. If they are theologians, they are speculative theologians. And theology is this dry, sterile discipline which gives you facts and allows you to tick boxes. But the Risale in its entirety is telling us why it is extremely dangerous for us as individuals to believe in the ability of partners to have some kind of effect, because straight away we think of our own actions. And if we are seriously believing that we create our own actions, then we are lost. We are totally lost. And this is why shirk is not forgiven. Shirk doesn't hurt the creator. Shirk doesn't hurt Allah. It hurts us. And that was my question. Is Tawheed, for most of us, just a slogan?
Colin abi, very important point you emphasized. As I read the book of your book Revolution of Belief, I remember that. So the same meaning you mentioned also. So when we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, so we are witnessing. We are saying that I bear witness. So Said Nursi, he is making us witness this Tawheed. So in the whole tafsir of Risale-i Nur, from the very earliest part, from the first word to the end. So he is making us see the pillars of Iman perfectly defined, and making us a witness for the La ilaha illallah, the meaning of La ilaha illallah, from particles to the stars, in everything, seeing the harmony, seeing the order, the perfect balance. So we are witnessing this. Alhamdulillah, it's a great bounty by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this time, being witness of Allah's arts, his miracles, his order, his balance. This is very important part. Yes, your point is very important. Rather than being speculative, being in this respect, showing the proofs in our realm. So this is also relevant for our realm, as shirk doesn't harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saving our realm to be in darkness because of the idea of shirk. Alhamdulillah, we are witnessing his power. We are witnessing his perfect lordship in everything. Yes.
Thank you for that. That's answered my question, because I often think that, am I using Tawheed like a slogan, or am I witnessing it? Because Ustad makes us witness his book, all of his books, all of his works, all of the Rasail are witnesses to Tawheed, and not just in the speculative sense. I'm not saying that speculative theology is bad. I'm myself, I'm a speculative theologian, but Ustad is mainly a pastoral theologian, because he is tending to our needs, our needs as human beings. We need to understand the danger of shirk, because it can take us to hell. And hell just means alienation from the Creator. And if we really do think that we are creating our own actions, this is the quickest way of alienating ourselves. We take ourselves away from God. So that's the danger of shirk, and this is the danger that Ustad warns us about in Risale, in all of the Rasail, really. So thank you for corroborating that.
You are welcome, Abi. Fatih Brothers, he shared the ayah from Baqarah 57. So وَمَا ظَلَمُونَ وَلَكِنْ كَانُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ يَظْلِمُونَ. So a person who is making shirk, so he is harming himself. Yes.
Yeah, that's another confirmation. Thank you. Thank you, Fatih.
I'm sorry, I studied a little bit of theology, but I'm not very familiar with the exactly what you mean when you say pastoral theologian, right? So it's kind of curing us with this theology, right? In a way, because as you said, we say I bear witness, which implies that I'm not saying I believe in it, I assume, I think, but I say I'm absolutely sure that 100% I put my signature underneath, and I'm kind of confessing that this is the truth. But as you said, in my actions and my own approach and my own thoughts is kind of all going in my own realm. I'm kind of giving myself an independence, and I'm in my daily actions, I'm kind of depending on my own abilities.
Yeah.
And you know, I can classify things that, oh, I'm able to do this, not this, and I operate accordingly. So most of the time, you're very right. You know, I'm always claiming an independence, even from part of the world. And
Yeah.
now, in my statement, I say I bear witness. I'm a witness of absolute sovereignty. So this is kind of a dilemma or two-facedness. I don't know what's
No, I don't. I think we're weak,
Yeah,
you know, and
it's
also
it's our challenge, or it's our
it is a challenge. But you know, speculative theology is using reason and using logic and using, you know, various intellectual tools in order to prove or in order to demonstrate the truths of belief, you know, in order to demonstrate the hereafter and show why the hereafter is more likely than not. So you can do that on an intellectual thing. But then once you've accepted that there is a hereafter, pastoral theology takes that and tries to help your soul, tries to help you as a believer. Now, how can that truth help me in my life? And Ustad shows us how to apply the truths, you know, which we've arrived at their existence speculatively. He tries then in things like, for example, the treatise for the elderly or the treatise for the sick, the treatise for youth. All of these are perfect examples of pastoral theology, because he's taking the truths of belief, you know, that we've arrived at intellectually, and then he's saying, how can these truths help you in your journey, in your life? So the pastoral theology in the Risale is just, it's everywhere. And that's the important thing for us, really. You know, once we've understood the truths of belief, how then do we apply them? And Ustad really is an Ustad in the true sense of the word. He's a master at showing us how to apply those truths to situations. And he uses his own life as an example, which is the best way of being a pastor, you know, being an imam, really, being an example.
I just skipped a part and want to read a part from the 6th indication that I think this is little related to what we just talked about. So let me first go through this part. Dominical singleness and divine unity are the means and basis of all perfections, and the source and origin of the purposes and wisdom in the universe's creation. They're also the source and sole means of attaining the wishes and desires of conscious beings and rational beings, and particularly of man. If not for divine singleness, all man's wishes and demands will be extinguished. The results of the universe's creation will also decline to nothing, and the majority of existent certain perfections will be annihilated. For example, man has an intense, unshakable, passionate desire for immortality. Only one who, through the mystery of singleness, holds the whole universe in his grasp and can close down this world and open up the hereafter as easily as shutting up one house and opening another, can satisfy this desire. Unlike this one, man's thousands of desires, which stretch to eternity and are spread through the universe, are tied to the mystery of singleness, fardiyya, and the reality of divine unity, tawheed. If not for divine singleness, they will be fruitless. And if not for the single one, al-fard, who through divine unity has disposal over the entire universe, those desires could not be satisfied. And even supposing they were, they would be so very deficiently. Any words on this, Cezmi or Kolin Hocam?
No, I think you were right. There is a relevance there. You know, it's a practical importance, because our needs can only be fulfilled by the one who put those needs there. You know, so you were absolutely right.
It comes to my mind the ending, the last sentence by Karabi you read. And if not for the single one who through divine unity has disposal over the entire universe, those desires, our desires for it goes to eternity, so couldn't be satisfied because we are living in a limited world, limited life. It cannot be satisfied. And even supposing they would be so very deficiently. So, you know, in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is defining ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. So nothing can satisfy us other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, other than his tranquility in the heart, giving us a tranquility in the heart. So other things, even a person preparing himself a deceptive paradise in this world. So supposing that I am very happy, I'm quite good, I fulfilled all my desires. So this is just deceiving oneself. I think what I understand from this, they would be so very deficiently, so it cannot satisfy our infinite capacity Allah has given us. Ahsan taqweem, we are given in the most excellent of patterns, we are created. So nothing can fulfill our desires other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Tawheed is the remedy, the medicine of this, the capacity Allah has given us, so that He is making us love eternity in our heart, in the very depth of our heart. We want eternity, and our desires, they want eternity. So this world is not, of course, is sufficient for that. And associating partners is destroying all our hopes, so all our capacity in that respect. So it came to my mind that would be very deficiently, and it will be fake, right? It will be deceptive if a person prepares oneself, a paradise in this world. Yes.
So this is a very, you know, a very universal or very broad definition, which, you know, talking about perfections, aims, wishes of mankind. So it's stretched to eternity. It's attached to the whole universe. Even though it gives us a lot of hope and enthusiasm, but on the other side, it's overwhelming. It's sometimes, you know, it can end with hopelessness. So kind of this, the name of Al-Fard, the single one, Tawheed, is just the only cure for that in a way. So it gives an aliveness, a spirit to the whole universe in that sense, you know. Inshallah, this will be the last week, but maybe after a break, we will continue to Ism High. So as the name of High, you know, gives the life, gives a unity to all beings, unless, you know, we believe in the one, the Tawheed, the spirit that combines the whole universe under one umbrella, that all those things that we talk about is meaningless. Now we are all lost, you know, strange, lonely creatures in the middle of multiplicity. You know, it's just everything we talk about goes to nothing unless there is such a reality that, you know, combines all of us. And that's how it makes sense to me. You know, he's talking about this perfections of man. I'm not, you know, many of them is too broad for me. I cannot really comprehend or make sense in my own realm. But and as Jazmabi underlined, we're talking about if even though we suppose those aims, desires are satisfied, but very deficiently, in a way. Any closing remark, any of our volunteer speakers or Colin Hocam?
No, you put that very beautifully. So no, nothing else to add to that.
Okay, we're at the end of time. There was some more to cover in the chapter of Al-Fard. Especially, I encourage our listeners to read the seventh indication by themselves, talking about our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. As a conclusion of this chapter. And Jazmabi, you want to make a short dua to just close?
Inshallah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا آمنا بما أنزلت واتبعنا الرسول فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين اللهم احشرنا في زمرة الصالحين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها النور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.
Again, thank you for joining us. Hopefully, we will see you the week after. Next week, we are planning to give a break. And then, inshallah, next week, we will start with Ismuhai.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for moderating.
Thank you. Thank you
Assalamu
for
alaikum.
joining.